One of the very important things as we travel to wild and primitive and remote places is, quite frankly, humans are loving some of these places to death. There's so many of us visiting these places that we cause considerable harm sometimes to them. So in the late 60s, early 70s, an educational organization was founded called leavenotrace.org, O-R-G. You can go to their website, lnt.org. And the goal was to educate and teach the public a series of 7 principles. And if people learn these principles and practice and apply these principles, then government agencies who regulate the wild places that we go to and visit won't have to regulate us as much. Or they may not have to close places down that they might otherwise, just because there's so many people putting so much pressure on these places. So Leave No Trace developed a series of 7 principles that I'm going to quickly share with you tonight, and also help you to know that there are variations of these principles based on the types of places you go to, as well as the type of activities. So I have left with your leaders a version of Leave No Trace principles called sea kayaking principles. So the first principle of Leave No Trace is one that we refer to as called plan and prepare. You are actually participating in that first principle tonight by learning about how to pack your stuff, what stuff to bring. You are preparing yourselves to be properly to go to these wild places. I think plan and prepare is one of my most favorite principles, because every decision I make about going to a new wild location, I always try to look up what's unique about that particular place. Now, one of the really good things about sea kayaking in the San Juans or up on Ross Lake is it's actually quite, there's a lot of amenities being provided in those locations. These are highly impacted areas, means they've been visited a lot. And so because they've been visited a lot, they have a lot of facilities. So they have things like fire rings already established. And if there's no fire ban in effect, you can have fire. They have toilet systems, pit toilet systems, oftentimes tables. In some situations, they have clean, fresh water available in the campsites. All of these things you would find out by doing your research before you go to a new location. The other thing as part of plan and prepare would be the number of people who could actually go on your trip. Some places have regulations about the number of individuals. In the case of in Ross Lake, it's 12-person max. Can't have a group size bigger than 12 people. If your group's bigger, you have to split into 2 separate groups, and you're not supposed to camp together. You may be able to meet up during the day, have lunch together or something, but you definitely can't camp together. In the San Juans, there's 2 types of group size limits. In the Washington State Marine State Park sites, 8 people per site. So if you had several campsites close together, you could have a group larger than 12 conceivably. But if you go to Department of Natural Resources sites, DNR sites, they like to have the same limit of 12 people. So these are all the kinds of things that are important to find out in that first principle called plan and prepare. Second principle, does anybody know what that one is? It's called travel and camp on durable surfaces. Is water a durable surface? No. Absolutely, of course it is. There's not anything you can do to water to harm it. And that's what's wonderful about traveling by kayak, is that you can't make an impact on the water. When you go through it, no one ever knew you were even there. You're going to be camping most often in these campsites, landing the kayaks and launching them from sandy beaches. Is sand a durable surface? Of course it is. You can't really alter sand running your kayak up onto it. The next wave washes over it and disappears any impact that your boat may have made running it up onto the beach. So that's one of the beauties of going to these kind of places by kayak. You can't really harm them. And so traveling and camping on a durable surface is not really a big deal. One of the third principles of Leave No Trace is we don't leave any sort of waste behind, whether that's food, scraps, food particles, or human waste. Now, one of the cool things about camping at Ross Lake or the San Juans is there'll be toilets in every campsite. So you don't have to worry about cat hole digging or any of those kind of things that you might like on a backpacking trip, because you're going to have a toilet to sit on in every campsite. But in terms of food scraps, it's very important that you're meticulous and clean in your campsites and you carry out all of your food and all your trash. Now, I never carry trash bags ever. Reason I don't carry trash bags is all the food I bring has already been repackaged into Ziplocs and various other bags. And as I take that food out and I use it and consume it, that food scraps and waste go right back into the same bags that it traveled to my campsite in. And that's how I containerize my trash for carrying out. Another principle of Leave No Trace is how we manage fire. Fire can have a really negative impact on the environment and on other people's experience. You're lucky again because all of these campsites will have fire rings and fire pits. So go ahead and utilize them. If you're sea kayaking and you go to a remote beach, you should pitch your campfire down on the beach below the high tide mark, meaning that when the next tide comes in, it will wash away all the evidence of any kind of a fire, the blackened charcoaled wood. It would wash that away. So if you aren't in a place where there's already a predetermined fire pit or fire ring, be sure to build your fires down on the beach below the high tide mark. Another principle of Leave No Trace would be to leave what you find. Don't take things with you. The only thing that you should collect are photographs and memories. Lots of good pictures, lots of good memories. Let me share with you a particular poignant example that I hope you'll remember. A couple of years ago, I was down in Baja in Mexico on the coast doing a coastal sailing course with Knowles, and meaning we were in open sailboats that were about 20 feet long. There was about 4 or 5 of us in each boat, and we were learning how to sail them and row them, and we would pull them up on the beach at night and camp. So very, very similar to sea kayaking. And I came across this really interesting skull from obviously some kind of creature. I didn't know what it was. I know of friends of mine who have collected that type of stuff over the years, and they have it sitting in their family room on various shelves and stuff. And I looked at this really cool skull, and I was obviously tempted to maybe take it home. But somebody in our group knew what it was. It actually happened to be a sea turtle, is what it was. And it was kind of very interesting, and I was able to marvel at this wonderful creation. But you know, the experience that I had seeing this sea kayak turtle skull, that needs to be the same kind of special experience for other people who would follow after me. And so by leaving that skull on that beach for others to stumble across and find, they would have the similar delight and similar experience that I had when I found that sea turtle skull. Now, I should also share with you, it's against the law, federal laws and Mexican law as well, to collect that type of stuff from any kind of marine mammals of any type or marine reptiles. Those things are definitely not to be collected. So don't take anything from the environment. Just take good memories and lots of good pictures. Another principle of Leave No Trace we kind of touched on already, but it has to do with wildlife. Kayaks were developed in the Arctic by the Inuit for hunting. They depended on kayaks for their very survival. They would hunt from them with harpoons and various other things. They're very stealthy. They're very, very quiet. It's very easy in a kayak to sneak up on animals very quietly. Seals, marine birds, whales, dolphins, all kinds of marine life. It's very easy to get close to them in a sea kayak. You shouldn't. You should bring binoculars. You should try to observe them at a distance. If you come around a little bend in the island, you're going along the coast, which is the most interesting. You come around a little headland or something and you pull around and there's a bunch of seals there pulled out on the rocks, basking in the sun. You need to signal to the rest of the group to go further out away from those seals and pass by them at a greater distance of, like, say, 50 yards. Visualize a football field and kind of figure out sort of 50 yards away or more. The reason is that they haul out in the 24-hour of a day cycle, they'll haul out of the water for many hours and soak up the sun as part of their overall survival. They need hours and hours in the sun. They can't spend their entire 24-hour period swimming around in the water. It would just rob too much body heat from them. So if you scare them back into the water multiple times during the course of a day, you're actually causing great harm to them. And that's true of birds and other wildlife. So observe birds, animals, wildlife at a distance if possible. There are very specific regulations that you should learn about as it pertains to whales. You have to be at least 100 yards from whales. You need to observe whales from the side, never cross in front of their path or behind them, always from the side and always at over 100 yards away. So learn about the distances you need to maintain, because the whales in the San Juans are very much watched and regulated on, and so you could actually get in some serious trouble with certain federal agencies if you come too close to whales. But it's really fun to see whales from a kayak. I've actually seen them several times, and it's a pretty amazing experience to be close down on the water and have whales nearby. Is a pretty amazing experience. And the final principle of leave no trace is courteousness to others. Unless you have group sites that are reserved and you're entitled to those sites for that particular evening, all sites would be first come, first serve. Now, clearly, if at the end of a day you're exhausted and tired and you've made it to this campsite that you want to camp at and there's another group there already, what you should do is just out of courtesy, you should land and go approach them and politely talk to them and see if they are willing to concede letting you camp there. You should ask for permission. If they make a big stink out of it and tell you they don't want you to do there, if it was dangerous to move on, I probably would still camp there, because I'm certainly not going to pick danger over courteousness. But you should always be courteous of other campers in these sites. You're sometimes very close to them. That means you should be quiet after 10 o'clock at night, and you probably shouldn't be noisy before about 8 o'clock in the morning. So just be courteous of others and we'll all have a better experience. So I hope you'll learn all you can about leave no trace in each of the different environments you go to, and for each of the different type of activities that you participate in, there's likely to be some form of leave no trace guidelines for you to practice.